Hello pilots! The last update brought some innovations, but what can I say? Flying the chicane gives me the most pleasure. Since we have long approach times in a helicopter for many missions, I simply built a mission myself. I named it Special Forces because I couldn't think of a better name. The idea was to have a launch platform near Port Maris so that I could liberate the city as a brave chicane pilot. So I built the F-125 Salvador, something that looks like a ship with a helipad, air defense and a radar station. Since I can't move the Salvador, I added a shard, which is supposed to serve as a mobile support, just to shorten flight times as much as possible. Let's take a look at the whole thing on the map. North of Port Maris are the Salvador and the shard positioned. The shard is moving towards the Salvador. Various enemy units are positioned within the city, which must be neutralized. Right at the beginning of the mission, various units can be seen on the beach. The goal of the mission is to land in the stadium of the city, which is supposed to testify that the city is safe again, at least what is left of it. It is necessary to get closer to the city and destroy all targets. I intend to use the surrounding area as cover. Previous attempts with more direct attacks have failed miserably, and I'm talking about many attempts. This time I tried to keep my distance in order to manage to finish the mission with just one airframe. So that I don't always have to commute from the city back to the Salvador, I think that the shard can take up position directly on the coast. Let's take a look together at how the mission went.
The enemy has occupied Port Maris. The F-125 Salvador has taken up position and is serving as a launch platform. A Shard-class corvette is on its way to provide support. Your task is to assess the situation and destroy all enemy units. Finally, you must land at the stadium to confirm safety.
A message from the Shard-class corvette. We can already see the F-125 Salvador. Just a few more minutes and we can join the fray. Until then, we could use some reconnaissance.
The first thing to do, of course, is choose the right livery. For this run I relied entirely on ATP-1s and linchpins, simply because you can take the most from them. I want to try to fight the targets at medium to long distances, if possible to avoid enemy fire. There are no air targets in the mission, which should give me time to find good positions. First, I attack all targets on the beach. They are already revealed and can be shot at directly. It is particularly important to neutralize the SPAAG and AFV-6AA so that they are no longer a problem. I fired all the linchpins, hoping that would be enough. So far, all targets have been destroyed, except for an APC. But first I had to fly back to the Salvador to take on new ammunition on board. The laser beams that could be seen briefly come from the Salvador and fight enemy missiles. No, only the APC remained. I fired 2 linchpins as they should be enough.
Very good. All units on the beach have been destroyed.
Meanwhile, the shard fired an AGM-48 at a target which was not hit. After the APC was neutralized, it was necessary to uncover new targets without being shut down.
Some units are trying to hide under nets. It didn't work. Destroy them.
During the attack, I was able to uncover more targets.
We must not let the enemy get their hands on the fuel in the trucks. Destroy all tankers and surrounding vehicles. The Shard-class corvette is in position. You can command it, but it must not go down.
The Shard was now in position and could be brought to the coast by me. I shot my remaining ATP once at various targets, hoping that some hits would come around. Unfortunately, with activated night vision, it is not easy to see whether targets have been marked by the laser. The red cross are simply not recognizable to me. I was able to hit 2 targets, but it was time to fly to the Shard to pick up new ammunition. A fairly easy landing, but I wanted to fly as safely as possible during the attempt. My personal goal was to master the mission with just one airframe. At the next targets, I was able to reach a clear line of sight and thus open fire. I was able to fend off incoming IR missiles again with flares, which had also been refilled at the Shard. Night vision helps me to better assess the ground in the dark areas. I don't know everyone likes the new night vision, but for me it works great. As can be seen in the kill feed, the enemy has CRAMs that could often fend off incoming missiles. I just tried to attack as many targets as possible, hoping to land a few hits and weaken the enemy's defenses. I take an IFV as target and again use flares against incoming missiles. In addition, I dive back into cover. It is better not to hit a target and survive than to hit a target and die in the process. Now get a clear view of the SPAG and fire. This should make the Anvil history, but a CRAM managed to fend off the incoming missile, so no hit. It's time to fly back to the Shard to pick up new ammunition. I'm now trying to find suitable targets to which I can easily build a line of sight. During my approach, I uncovered other targets.
There are several tanks scattered around the city. Destroy them and all accompanying vehicles.
There's a tank group in the city, one with fuel trucks and one under camouflage nets. The difficulty is always that the targets of buildings are hidden. But sometimes you get a laser marking, which means a direct line of sight. That's why I just shot at the fuel truck.
Without all that fuel, the enemy will be able to make fewer maneuvers. Very good.
A CRAM almost caught me, but I was able to get back into a stable position and look for more targets. First I attacked an Anvil, and as soon as I have a line of sight on it, I opened fire. I also attacked a more distant unit, but it was covered by a building.
These new camouflage nets don't seem to have caused you any major problems. They were able to fool our satellites.
I could still see an Anvil, so I opened fire and rounded it off with a few lynchpins. It was still able to open fire on me, but it is easy to avoid it at this distance. And it could no longer defend the incoming missiles. Behind it was a SAM unit, which I also wanted to attack. But then I noticed that I had already come very close to the outskirts of the city and decided to retreat for a short time. Again, used flares against incoming missiles and went on the search for targets. To do this, I give the city a wide berth to use the terrain as cover and thus deprive the enemy of any chance to fight me. To guarantee a kill, I fired 4 ATP-1s at the target. AFV-6 anti-air units can fend off incoming missiles quite well. In order not to take them with me, I targeted other targets in the east of the city and fought them with the linchpins. Although some linchpins were repelled during their approach, they were enough to overwhelm the defenses. After picking up new ammunition, I fly around the city again in an arc to attack remaining targets from a safe distance. As soon as I have a line of sight to targets, I open fire. However, an anvil shoots at me, which forces me to turn away. ATP-1s are optically guided, which is why the line of sight does not have to be maintained during their approach, unlike linchpins. I fired 2 more missiles at the remaining target and then approached the SAM unit. That's even a bolt strike. It was no problem to put the unit out of action at short distance. Although there was also an anvil who could have helped with the defense, it does not seem to have reacted. At a distance of 3 kilometers, the enemy has little reaction time. The AFV-6AA tried to hit me with its cannon, but in vain. It should have shot better at the incoming missiles, but well, I liked the result. I flew further to the east of the city to keep my distance and wanted to fight another bolt strike. But then an air sentry spag was a good idea. It also had too little time to react to my attack. I think the change of position to the other side of the city was a good idea. Du Taul opened fire on the bolt strike and the missiles finished it off. There was only 1 SAM unit left. I positioned the chicane accordingly and opened fire. It looked in the opposite direction and could do no further than burst into flames. Since it was clear to me from previous attempts that the position of the tanks is quite secure, I flew around them in a large arc. In addition to the tanks, there were also C-rams that can make life difficult. And this time I wanted to manage not to be dismantled by them. However, I hadn't found a good spot from which you can fight the tank position well. This time I tried it from the water side. On the TV screen you can see how a C-ram opened fire on me. I immediately reacted with an evasive maneuver and managed to avoid most of the projectiles. Nevertheless, I had to accept slight damage. I decided to fly to a different position. I wanted to gain altitude because I thought I would get a better starting position. I tried to saturate the targets and thus overwhelm the C-rams. It worked out partly, at least I was able to hit 4 targets. And even if I only had a clear line of sight on one target, I shot everything again in the hope of hitting more targets. And lo and behold, 3 more tanks hit and destroyed. On my return flight, I let the chicane take a bath, of course fully intended. This helps to have a cool weapon bay. There were still 5 uncovered targets to fight. To do this, I tried again from a different position. I tried to attack again from high above, but from a different angle. I fired 2 volleys of ATP-1s, followed by some linchpins. There were no other targets worth mentioning, so why save ammunition? I hit a few targets, leaving only a C-ram and an ammo truck. However, the C-ram managed to fend off my ATP-1s, which frustrated me a bit and let me go into hand-to-hand combat. The 30mm cannon had to be used against the C-ram. After the street canyon offered me good cover, I managed to destroy the C-ram and the ammunition truck confidently.
Those tanks and support forces could have made things difficult for ground troops.
No, there were still 2 C-ram units to fight in the stage. I tried to gain altitude to uncover at least 1 C-ram.
2 crams guard the playing field, so be on your guard.
I managed to do that for some time so that I was able to fire my remaining 6 ATP-1s. However, the C-ram managed to fend off all incoming missiles, which made me want to pick up ammunition at the shot again. I wanted to get another loadout from the Salvador first, but then I thought I wanted to finish it the way I started. On my second attempt, I shot several ATP-1s and made a roll. On the one hand, I was able to vary the approach angle of the ATP-1s a bit and I wanted to avoid incoming defensive fire from the C-ram. However, it had enough to do with the missiles and ultimately died of being overwhelmed. So there was only 1 C-ram left. I flew past the stadium and tried to build up a line of sight to the target again from a great height. As soon as I could see the C-ram, I fired at it with everything I had left and dived right in. On the one hand, this can help to dodge incoming projectiles, on the other hand, if I hit, I have to land in the stadium anyway.
Very good, now you should be able to land.
I managed to destroy the C-ram and only had to land in the stadium, which should not be difficult anymore. Thanks for watching. If you want to play the mission yourself, the link is in the video description. Fly safe.
Well done. Mission accomplished.